Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I'm here this morning with David. And we are super excited to be with you this morning. We are doing our first YouTube live show, so feel free to join in the conversation in the chat, share the link with friends and family who you think would be interested. The Weekly Energy Boost is a 7-day spiritual energy forecast where we share the most powerful, the most practical wisdom that we know, that we've learned from our teachers and from the wisdom of Kabbalah, so that you can have the most effective and inspired week possible. So this week we're talking about passion and spirituality. This is, you can see from the image behind me, the leaf. This week, we're the energy and the universe is really inspiring us to create and push forward a new reality, to make sure that our desires are in line with our actions. And David and I are going to share with you some deep secrets on why that is and how we can take advantage of it. What do you think of when, well, I don't know, we were talking about this earlier. There's so many places we could go with this conversation, but, you know, the Kabbalists teach that every week has a unique energy, and that the calendar itself is not used for the measurement of time, but rather the measurement of energy, and how learning that wisdom helps us navigate not only our daily lives, but also helps us be more proactive in the bigger picture.
The reason why we study Kabbalah, because it all boils down to two forces: the desire to receive and the light force of the Creator. And everything that we learn with the spiritual laws of this universe is to help us understand what we need to do to the vessel, to the desire to receive, because we each have our own vessel, right? We have the collective vessel of mankind, but the way I affect the collective vessel of mankind, which I know we're all interested in because we see what's happening in the world, is I have to take control over my vessel. The only free will that we have in life is what we do with our desire. So we have desire. We have big desire. We have small desire. We have selfish desires. We have sharing desires. We have desires that are mixed up. You know, we say we want one thing, really we want another thing. We think we're in love. We desire this person, but maybe it's not this person that we desire. It's this thing that we get from the person, and then all of a sudden we don't get it. So it's very confusing for a lot of people. And what Kabbalah does is it helps a person understand their desire, because it's the only free will we have is what you do with your desire. You can't control other people. You can't control the external, even though the opponent, the negative side, makes it seem like you can. Right? That's the whole illusion. The illusion is I can change you. The illusion is I can manipulate and be clever with this world to try to get what I want. And we're learning no. The light force has already parceled out for you all the blessings you will ever want. It's already earmarked for you. It's set aside for you. Now, maybe someone else is borrowing it until you're ready, but it's yours. The Zohar talks about something very powerful, that sometimes when a person hasn't earned, their vessel hasn't earned their soul partner, that soulmate, that the soulmate could be married to another person, meaning that someone else is just holding on to, what's the better way to put it? It's just safekeeping. Safekeeping. That's the same thing with our money, or sometimes our purpose. Maybe your purpose in this world, whatever your dream career would be, someone else is occupying that seat, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing. No one's taking anything from you. And at the moment your vessel, your desire to receive, and we're going to explain some ways to prepare that vessel in today's show, but the moment your vessel is ready to receive, it says that nothing can stop. If it's a soulmate, that soulmate must leave that marriage and come to you, however that happens. If it's a position at a company or business or money that's in someone else's hands and it should be in your hands, nothing will stop that energy from coming to you. The Creator will make sure of it, so you don't have to worry. The only thing you have to worry about is what you do with your desire to receive, with your vessel.
And I think it's an important thing to point out that what we learn in the very first classes when you start to study Kabbalah is the idea that we have these two voices inside. We have these two forces, almost like you think of cartoons where you have like the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other. Kabbalah doesn't teach that we have a devil and an angel. Rather, we have our true self, our soul, the spark of the light force of the Creator. And then we have this other force that influences us, tries to influence us, not so that we'll listen to the corrupt, the tainted advice, but so that we will resist it. And I think that if you focus in on that internal dialogue, which to me, a lot of what's happened in this past year, forcing the universe forcing us to cut down our interaction with the public, with people, to stay inside. It was not only a directive to stay within one's home, but also to go within oneself and focus on that internal dialogue. The necessity, or the universe is begging us, look inside and reflect on who are you listening to? What part of what broadcast are you tuned into? Because inevitably, when you're tuned into the broadcast, we call it the opponent, the broadcast of the opponent, you're always going to be tempted to take the instant gratification, to not hold out for the things you truly desire. And the concept of desire, as we're talking about it today, I think a lot of people associate desire with sensual, and when I say sensual, I mean the five senses even, not just, you have desire for food, for companionship, for a vacation, for lots of money, and a lot of those desires are very short-sighted. Kabbalah teaches that if you really want fulfillment, desire the things that will give you lasting fulfillment, because the short-term stuff, it's like eating popcorn. You fill up, you get a large tub of popcorn at the movies, and you feel really full until suddenly you're not, and you realize you just ate styrofoam for the last 2 hours. So this week, we really need to look at what are the desires that I have that are directing me to long-term fulfillment, and what are the desires that I have that are leading to short-term fulfillment. When let's say, for example, you have a professional goal that you desire to be the best in your field. And there's a lot of, when you put that desire out there, the universe, to me, I kind of see it like almost like train tracks. The train tracks line up. They may have to turn one way or another, and you have this path that you decide that you're on. And along the way, you're going to get these offers to shortchange yourself, right? I had a student that every time she was about to sign this huge deal, she would get tempted to go back to an old flame. Like literally.
Every time there was a business
deal was coming up.
An old ex.
And I want you to explain why that happens, because there is a very metaphysical explanation for why that happens. But it's like somehow there would be this temptation to give in to the easy urge, I would call it. Yeah. And you'll see it with everything, like you find maybe I shouldn't go too far down the relationship track, but you find somebody you have real potential with, and an ex will come and beg you for another chance. Or, you get an interview with a company you really want to work for, and the boss you have is begging you and will give you more money and will try, right? So the concept of that voice, the opponent, or even the external, the appearance of the opponent, whether it's the ex or the job that's easier or more comfortable. I also had a student that hated her job but loved the benefits and stayed miserable in the job because she loved the benefits. So this week we really need to look at what are the things that we want, and how are we shortchanging ourselves? How are we going for the easy out And then we're looking at our life and we're saying, well, how come I'm not where I said I wanted to be? Or how come I haven't achieved the goals that I desire to achieve when in reality, I've been giving away energy to the wrong things?
In Kabbalah, we learn that there's two ways to have energy enter your life. There's taking energy. You go out and you take it. You see something that you want, you grab it. You say something, you feel kind of lack in a group of people. You try to say something funny because you want to take that energy. I remember teaching a class, it was probably 2006, in someone's home. And someone invited me, 6 people, can you teach a class? And I could tell 5 of those people didn't want to be there. It was kind of one person forced everybody to be there. And the 5 people that didn't want to be there, they were constantly making jokes during I'm teaching Kabbalah 1 class 1, and they're making jokes and they're just coming up with their witty banter constantly. And I realized, and then I had a conversation with them, because Kabbalah 1 class 1 is all about the reactive behavior, about when I want something, I feel lack, I take it. And I said, part of your reactive behavior in this class is every time you feel lack, or maybe you're annoyed, maybe you don't want to be here, instead of being a giver, instead of acting like the light, the way you take energy is by being witty and clever and coming up with like sarcastic jokes. And everyone just kind of looked at me, and then and then one guy said, my whole life I'm just sarcastic because that's the way I fill my void. So that's an example of taking, and we take all the time. Person comes home and sees their family, a man or a woman, you come home and maybe you didn't see your family all day and you had a hard day or you had a long day or you had a draining day or whatever it is, your first tendency is probably going to be to take energy. And then maybe the person who was at home had a hard day too, and they want to take energy from you. So taking is one mode. It's perhaps the most popular mode, but the Kabbalists say every time you take energy, and we're going to explain what the opposite of taking is. It's not giving. Every time you take energy, you have chaos. But what happens is what's called a simsum. It's a contraction that the light that you took must leave you. So what does Kabbalah teach? How to receive. Receiving is actually a very magical, powerful thing. What does it mean to receive? Receive means the energy comes to you, but it's not you taking it. It's being given to you, and it's a very different feeling. And when you receive something, it can last forever. When you receive something, it has continuous blessing. When you take something, you have a high and then a crash. When you're angry with someone and you shout and you yell and you come up with all these things that hurt you for the last couple of years, and you just blurt it all out at once, you feel really good. You got it off your chest. You feel high. But essentially what you did is you took. Yes, all those words needed to be said, but they needed to be said in a way that involves restriction and spirituality and some of the tools that we're going to talk about. Taking becomes receiving when you implement some spiritual tools. And we can all think of when we received in our lives and how it lasted, when the relationship was received, not taken, when the wealth was received, not taken, when the wisdom was received, not taken. And we'll explain a little bit more about the difference between the two, but that's what I want to talk about today, is receiving. And that's tied into passion, sexual energy, all these things as well, because the stronger the energy, the harder it is not to take it.
Actually, that's something, it's so funny in my notes. One of the points I wanted to make, because I know that this conversation, especially if you're new to the show, if you're new to spirituality, sometimes when we talk about the opponent, it can be really scary and it can be overwhelming. And it sometimes feels like, well, if I've got this force challenging me all the time, how can I ever expect to win? How can I ever expect to succeed? The facts are that the greater a person's capacity to reveal light, the higher, the more elevated a person's purpose is, the stronger the opponent is going to be, the stronger the resistance, even externally, a person will experience, because the greater the darkness, the greater the light. And as we grow, this is like Kabbalah 1 Class 3 now. We're doing a quick crash course today. Kabbalah 1 Class 3, we talk about how as you grow, your opponent has to grow. And one of the things I see with students is that in the beginning, when you start learning this wisdom and practicing this practice, that you see immediate results. As someone was just sharing in the chat, since they started taking classes with you, they completely stopped being sarcastic, and that's everything. That's all they used to be, right? After hearing you talk about this, they quit sarcasm cold turkey. But what happens is that there are certain things when you start on the spiritual journey that they fall off, like the weights or patterns or habits that are usually fresh. They're not, related to lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. They're new and fresh bad habits or or negative tendencies. They fall off easily. And
Right.
so the person feels like, wow, I can do this.
Right.
This is awesome. Spirituality is awesome. Kabbalah is awesome. And they have this passion and this drive until they hit something they've been carrying with them for lifetime after lifetime. And then we start to see how our opponent gets us and starts to. The hard thing about the opponent is there's always a little bit of truth to what the voice of the opponent.
He always uses some truth, absolutely.
Right. So it's convincing because you can see how it could be true.
Right.
The opponent starts in and tells us lies, right? They don't love you. You're not respected. That's a really big one. They don't respect you. And then you find yourself in the struggle to get respect instead of focusing on the real reason you're in that situation, whatever you were passionate about, whether it was your relationship or your career or it can be any. I hear people sometimes talking about their homeowners association, that's like where all of their the darkness in their life is right now. But pay attention to that voice and notice how as your spiritual prowess grows, so too that voice has to grow. Otherwise, it's not going to pose a challenge to you anymore. If your opponent stayed 5 years old and you were 35, there wouldn't be much of a challenge there. The purpose of the opponent is to help us extract our own greatness, not so that we'll be owned by it.
I want to give some more examples of taking versus receiving so our audience can relate to it. If you remember, every year we have these huge events. First of Libra, Rosh Hashanah, we have these huge events, thousands of people. And these events, we would be in very powerful spiritual events of prayer and meditation and learning. And, it start at 9 a.m. and usually would end around like 4 p.m. We go to lunch around 4 p.m. And the lunch is usually, and those of you who are listening to us, I know many of you know exactly what I'm talking about. The lunch is usually in a different room. And then the session is over and then everybody goes to lunch. And lunch is like a buffet. And people are stampeding to the buffet. And all people want, people think like all the food's going to end or something. So they are running to get the food and grabbing at whatever food they can get. And it's so funny because we just had this like 8-hour spiritual moment of learning how to become givers and receivers, not takers. But in reality, if everybody was running to the buffet because they were creating...
But we're meditating. We're unified in prayer. We are
It's
probably
magical.
at the most elevated...
It's the Garden of Eden.
You cannot imagine how amazing this experience is. And then the moment
the hunger kicks in and the food is available. Because here's the thing about a test. Two things have to be there for a test. Your desire and the opportunity to fulfill the desire have to both be there. Because everybody was hungry. But because there was no food there was no test. Right? Because when you're hungry and there's no food, so you let go. But as soon as the food is there, that's when the test is. And a lot of people tell me, I'm in control of myself. I'm in control of my desires until the most beautiful toxic person is in front of them. Now they're not, or the ex texts them, and all of a sudden it brings up emotions. And so now the opportunity to take energy is there. That's when the test comes. So anyways, the point is, whenever you're really like hungry, or you're really in a mood, or you're in a bad mood or something, those are the times that you want energy. And the secret is to restrict, to let go and pause. And it's going to feel like you're going to die. That's what it feels like. That's why it's so hard for people to do it, because people say, if I don't get the food, I'm going to die. If I don't take this relationship, someone else is going to take it, and then I'm going to be alone, and I'm going to die. If I don't take the money, everyone else will take the money, and then I'm going to die. That's the fear that everybody has. But the truth is, it's the exact opposite. Whatever you take, you can't enjoy. Whatever you take, you stay in darkness.
I think the best example of that is flirting.
Explain.
No, because many times people say, well, I want my soulmate. I want a true, meaningful, lasting relationship. And then they take, to borrow your terminology, they take energy from anybody who will give them the time of day. Right. And that, it's harmless on the physical level. Sometimes it leads to, one night stands and whatnot. But what we don't realize again is that we have these long range vision goals. I want to be with the right person for the rest of my life, build a family, happiness, picket fence, etc. And then at the same time, we're taking energy every time. Like David was saying, it's almost like a black hole that opens up and says, I need energy, and I'm going to suck all the energy I can get out of whoever's in front of me, whether it's, again, we're definitely out less, but I guess to whatever degree you can find it. Now you can do it on apps or social media, or, you go to 7-Eleven to get a Slurpee, I guess. There's another human being there that you can take energy from. And then people say, well, I don't understand. I'm spiritual, I'm nice, I'm kind, I'm the person I want to marry kind of thing. And then they don't understand why they're not getting closer to their goal.
And I want to drive this home because you have one vessel, and what you put in it is what's in it. And I remember one time going to a wedding or a party with somebody a long time ago, and it was one of these weddings, like $1 million weddings, with like the best food, and we're all looking forward to it. You're gonna have the best. And I remember driving with this person, and he was eating these potato chips in the car, and he's just eating the whole bag of potato chips. And I'm like, why are you eating these potato chips? He's like, I'm hungry. I said, but we're about to go to a place with like 19 cuisines and like the best, like you even have millions of dollars worth of food. Why are you filling up? Because by the time we got to the wedding, you couldn't eat anything because they ate all the potato chips. And that's essentially what we're saying. You have one stomach, you have one vessel. Not that flirting is bad. We have to be clear because that's communication. We transfer energy. It's all fine. But we have to be clear. When you take energy, it's like eating the potato chips before the meal. It's gonna fill you up with something that you didn't even want, and it's not what you desired, or it's not the glory, it's not the pleasure that you truly want to enjoy. And we can't let other things in. So a person who wants a long-term fulfilling relationship delays it when they fill themselves with other energies. And here's the other thing. When you fill yourself with potato chips, spiritual potato chips, you lose the desire for food. And when you lose your desire, the food leaves.
So that's the point
secret.
that I
The
wanted to make,
leaves.
by the way.
The soulmate leaves and comes back months later or years later because your desire is also removed by the potato chips you ate.
Right. And if you think about the people that you have encountered, that you have remarked, wow, look at how passionate they are. Look at how inspired they are. Look at how, they're relentless in their drive to whatever it is. Right. Know that they're not eating potato chips. Like that's the secret to maintaining the passion is to not give in to the little easy, I call it easy urges. It's like, snacks, or maybe we'll just continue calling it spiritual potato chips. But those people, you want to call it discipline, you want to call it restriction. They're not allowing themselves to shortchange themselves on the path to getting what they want. And the universe is structured in such a way that we're constantly going to be tested. And it's not about pass fail, right? You fail and then that's it, you're done for. It literally is like the spiritual gym, right? You love the instructor, you're going to this exercise class. Again, it's a wasted metaphor during this year, but let's say you're on your what do they call that bike with the videos? Peloton. So you love this teacher and and then suddenly you get a new teacher, and the new teacher is a drill sergeant, right? And you think it feels like punishment, but the punishment part, or the struggle that a person has in that exercising, is actually what allows more muscle to be built, more calories to be burned. Think of all the benefits of why the person is exercising in the first place. When it's easy, it doesn't get us where we're going. And so the tests are not, I know I've spoken to a lot of people that say, well, I can't do this. This is too hard. It's not about if you pass or fail, I'm going to sound like a Hallmark card in a minute, but it's like the process is the purpose, not the outcome. And that's why sometimes we're on the way to a higher goal and we're pushing toward it, and there's a detour. And we think it's a detour, but it's actually the universe telling us, you're so driven, you're so certain, you're so relentless. Let me show you what would be even better for you. And the fact that I think that's another thing that has come up for a lot of people these last few months is, I can't have what I want, but the universe is showing me to focus on something else now. A lot of people, even professionally, have had to pivot this year and have found amazing things as a result. If that had come to us a year ago, 2 years ago, we wouldn't have been open to it.
Here are some practical tools of how to transform from taking to receiving. And remember, receiving takes more patience. However, it's much more powerful. Somebody told me something really amazing about our teacher, Rav Berg. He said it to me this weekend. He said, as the Rav became more spiritual, more elevated, more powerful, even more well-known, famous, right? He was in Times Magazine, one of the most influential people in the world at one point. The teacher told me something amazing. He said that the Rav didn't, he moved slower. He actually wasn't out there like, yeah, take this, it's like you fight in the beginning to create something. But as you start to receive and you start to grow more and more energy comes, you actually have to have more letting go, more restriction, more humility. And what that does essentially expands your vessel, because every time you let go, your vessel expands so more can come in. It seems like a total contradiction. We think that by taking the energy, that's how we get more. And the mantra that I want to use, we have pause, what a pleasure, when it comes to you're facing a challenge, right? Something negative happens, something challenging happens. We say pause, what a pleasure, meaning you pause, you don't react, you don't take energy, and you affirm that this is good. This is good for me. It's coming from the Creator, therefore it's good for me and it's going to help me receive more in the future. What I like to say at every moment is, first you have a desire for something. That's step one. There's always going to be some kind of a desire that comes up. It can be for anything. It can be food, energy of pleasure, relationship, sex. It doesn't matter. There's a desire. Then I do pause, pray. I pause, and then I pray. What do I pray? I say, 1 second. I'm going to let go. Is this what's right for me? Should I have this now? Is it coming from a neediness? Is it coming from addiction? Is it coming from my need to build my ego? Whatever it is. And it can be anything. So, for example, you're running to the buffet. We all know
the actual buffet this time.
And sometimes you're sitting at a dinner table with like 8 people, and you're hungry. I remember the sushi potter once came, and there's like all these different pieces of sushi, and like there's only these 2 pieces that you can eat. Maybe your diet, and you're afraid someone's going to take that piece. It's like there's the 2 pieces without rice, and you're on some kind of a paleo carb-free Atkins thing, and so you're like, oh my God, someone's going to take, and the plate is moving towards you, and so you just want to take that 2 pieces because it's the only 2 pieces without rice, and rightfully so, because everyone else can eat rice.
How many of our listeners can relate to what David's saying
You can
now?
relate to a version of it, and the plate is coming towards you. We got to pause, pray, and say, you know what? I'm going to let go. Maybe there's somebody else who has a no rice diet. If this piece is meant for me, it will be there. And then I've seen it so many times where people just kind of grab those 2 pieces and kind of like falls apart in the chopsticks and like plops on the plate, and they're like, well, at least I got it. And then all of a sudden, as they're eating it, a whole tray of non-rice, beautiful sushi.
Sashimi.
Like it all just comes, and you've already filled yourself up with you kind of feel this shame that you just kind of took it.
But 1 second. I want to not interrupt you, but redirect you for a second.
Can you guys relate to what I'm saying?
Yes, we're getting comments that everybody relates.
Okay.
Everybody relates, but I want to speak to the people who are not relating for 30 seconds.
Okay.
What about the people who don't feel they deserve the 2 pieces that they can eat? What about the people that say, you know what,
I don't deserve to eat anything.
I don't deserve to eat anything, or
I'll just suffer.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there who say, why bother? I'm not going to enjoy it anyway. I don't know what I'm doing here. These people, or nobody's talking to me. we all have been there. We all go there sometimes, even if that's not our normal mode.
The person who's saying, I don't deserve even the sushi, I'll just starve. Everyone has a desire. So it just looks like they have no desire. They have a desire. Their desire is to feel bad for themselves. Their desire is that other people will see them as a martyr. And there are a lot of people out there who pretend like they don't want anything, but they really want the world to see them as a martyr. I know many
But by the way,
like
I want to make sure that it's clear to everybody.
that's an ego. That's
another
taking.
way
You're
of taking energy.
You're
Yeah,
taking.
It looks like
very
no,
sneaky.
Ignore me. I'm not here. Look, everybody's ignoring me.
Sure.
Nobody. But it is a form of taking as well.
It's a form of victim consciousness.
It looks humble, and it's really not.
Because here's the thing: if nobody existed in the world, you'd take that sushi. And the reason why you're not taking it is because you want everybody to feel bad for you, to think you're a sacrificial like lamb. Like I sacrifice for my family, I sacrifice for everybody. See how much I sacrifice? Like I want to be known as the sacrificer. That's a huge tikkun. That's a huge correction. And it's the worst kind of ego because it's so sneaky. Because everyone will applaud that you're a sacrificer because it brings them comfort. This person will never eat my food. Great. This person will always just sacrifice. And I know
I know that person will always say yes, so I know I can always ask them.
Exactly. I've seen so many people in our Kabbalah classes. I remember live classes where this one woman once stood up and said, my whole life, I just give and I give and I give and I give. And everybody just, poops on me and I don't get any respect. And then she realized that she wants to be the martyr. She wants to be the one who falls on the sword. I used to have this friend who always used to talk about the guy who jumps on the grenade. Like that's what he always wanted to be, the guy who jumps on the grenade. And I said, wow, you really. And our teacher used to say, there's so much ego. Obviously, sacrificing your life for somebody else is a very noble, heroic thing. But if it's the thing that gets you, it's like that fills your lack, that fills your insecurity that you're waiting to sacrifice, then it's about you. It's not really. It's not. There's a lot of ego there. So it's actually taking. It's not receiving. Receiving is why pause, pray. Pause, pray. I pray that I don't have neediness, attachment. Because when you have attachment, you can't receive. When you have attachment, it means a part of you is taking. That's the secret. And you always have to self-audit yourself and say, wait, am I attached right now? Am I attached to getting this or not getting it? If I don't get it, will I be happy? No. Okay, so then I have to have it. So there's a part of you that's trying to take it, trying to manipulate the scenario. And every time you can pause, pray, and audit, make sure, where's my attachment, where's my ego, whatever, then you're protected. Now, you open the gates, you expand the vessel, and you'll see that it'll start to come to you. Energy will start to come to you. Pleasure will start to come to you. I gave this class once about money that the people who are very type A, and they're ambitious, and they go out there and get all the money, you have to be careful because you're so good at what you do, you're so talented, you're so creative, you could get money that doesn't belong to you. So all of a sudden, let's say, for example, $100,000 belongs to you, but you're so smart, so creative, like you found a way to make $200,000. But that extra $100,000 doesn't really belong to you, it's somebody else's. And now that extra $100,000, that surplus is going to cause you chaos. So do you really want it? Because in our mind, we're just thinking, take as much as possible. So how do I know it's not mine? You always have to let go. When the check is coming, and when people want to even give you have to say, wait 1 second. Talk to the Creator and say, pause, pray. Wait, is this even mine? Creator, if it's not mine, I don't want it. Now, if it comes to you, then it's yours. But we have to be of that place where we're letting go and then allowing the Creator to share with us.
We have 2 questions. You ready?
Yeah.
One actually came from a listener by email last week who was, we had said that this week we were going to talk about sex and stuff like that. We could for a few minutes if people are interested. We didn't. This is the only email.
Detour, yeah.
This is the only email I got about it, so I understood that not everybody's interested. But she was asking about how to maintain, the examples that we use about accomplishing, achieving, striving are often about finding the relationship. She was asking about how to maintain passion in her marriage.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really, based on what we were saying before, wanting that long-term success, right? The accomplishment isn't finding the partner. It's having a long-lasting romance with your partner. So she was asking how do you keep the passion in a marriage, in a
That's a great
long-term
question.
relationship after the initial fires have
It's a very common thing that once you're in a committed relationship, be it marriage or not, once you're really committed to someone, the dynamic changes, and there's a different type of energy between the two.
By the way, I should plug that we are going to dedicate, I think, in a couple months, 4 shows to relationships. So hang in there. We are going to talk about it totally. But I want to get in the passion part.
Sure.
Because the passion is probably the first thing that goes. People start to have, if you start a family and you both have jobs that you are
it's busy,
committed
it's stressful.
to, life takes over.
And the reason, it's not that the passion leaves. People think that when they get married, the passion leaves. Something else is happening. When you're not in a committed relationship, the energy is taking. It's like, how can I? It's like it's lust. It's kind of like, because when you're not committed, it means you're open. It means there's other things. There's other people. There's other things.
There's other outlets.
There's other outlets. So the program in the brain is, how much can I take? Also, because the other person isn't committed to you, there's always a fear of losing them. So every time you get something from them, it renews you. It makes you feel alive. Now, what happens when you're committed to each other? So the game is over. There's no more trying to prove yourself. Now, actually, that's the Creator's way of saying, now you can receive. Now you can receive from the person. You don't even need to take anymore. Lust is now replaced with love. And because we are not trained in that regard, we're trained to take, people, once they become committed, they start to shut down because they're so programmed to take. And now they don't need to take, they can receive, but they don't want to. Receiving, it seems so bland to them.
Well, again, it goes back to the idea of having a challenge, right? There's a lot of people that flirt or try to get the person because of the challenge. Once they get the person,
they're addicted to the sacrifice.
Right.
They're addicted to the need to accomplish. So for them, dating was always, how can I accomplish another date? How can I accomplish them to commit to me? And okay, now they committed to me. So what happens is then we shift our energy and we start working hard in the business. We start working hard on other relationships. Sometimes people have other outlets where they enjoy the taking. There's other sexual pleasures that they go for because their essence is, how can I just take energy? Now that I've already earned this person, I've already put a ring on it, they're mine, I don't really need to do much. It's not fun anymore. It's not, but quite the opposite. In fact, now it's a very high level. You're replacing lust with love. And now you can receive and create circuitry, which then brings tremendous, tremendous blessings to every other part of your life. If you're in a committed relationship, and we'll talk about this in the relationship series, if you're in a committed relationship and you create circuitry there, you devote your passion there, and you don't go outside the marriage or the relationship, what will happen is a very high level of light will be revealed. You will feel that energy. It's not just out there in the cosmos. You're going to feel it. And then that light will shine down on the children, shine down on the business, shine down in all the other parts of your life. The marriage, the relationship is the nuclear reactor, the nucleus of everything else. So when there's problems in the marriage or in the relationship, then there's chaos in all the branches of a person's life. So we got to talk about that in the relationship series.
I'm excited about it. We have some really cool topics coming up.
I did want to talk a little bit about the sexual thing because people ask about it all the time. And in Kabbalah, we never say, do this, don't do that. Right? We never go there. That's not the religious dogma of you should or you shouldn't. What we love to do is teach people about energy. And the sexual energy on the thought level, the words and the actions, draw tremendous energy. That's all it is. It draws tremendous light. And when the vessel isn't prepared, there's 2 ways that the vessel is not prepared. One, when the vessel is not of a sharing mode. So you're in a relationship, it's not about sharing with the other person, it's about, lust. I'm going to just take something.
Taking.
So that means the vessel is not ready. The other thing that the vessel is not ready is when there's neediness or fear. That also makes the vessel not ready. So you draw all this energy into a vessel that's small and not ready, and then there's a short circuit, the circuit breaker.
Or it's not that it might be. We also talk about it as doing the right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's about the timing as well.
Exactly. I'm talking to somebody, they're dating, they're getting to know each other, and obviously there's passion in it. And I said, the slower you take it, the more you can understand what the relationship really is. Because the minute you draw that energy in, you drown out everything else. It muddies everything else. You don't really know how their personality is after that. You don't really know what their baggage is, because it's all being submerged in the powerful energy that you're drawing. So if you kind of take it step by step, build the vessel, then bring the energy in later on, you're always going to have more fulfillment, less chaos that way.
The other question, which is totally connected, is how do you make sure that your desire stays strong for the long-term fulfillment?
Are we talking about in a relationship?
I think it applies to anything. We can talk about it in professionally, in a relationship, but that, I think a lot of people start out with strong desire, clear vision, I know what I want, and then because of, you can call it trial and error, you can call it heartbreak, you can call it rejection, whatever it is, the desire diminishes. I mean, we have somebody writing in who's saying they don't have any desire at all, they're complacent, they don't deserve. Or you can just go to the extreme of, I hear people say all the time, maybe I don't deserve, fill in the blank, right? Maybe I'm not meant to have my soulmate. Maybe I'm not meant to get married. Maybe I'm not meant to be wealthy. Maybe all that stuff. How does a person keep their focus, keep the passion, and elevate their desire, purify their desire?
I'll share something that I think is so powerful that without Kabbalah, I would never have this. And our teacher, Robert, taught me personally this thing 20 years ago. He said, you have to choose every day how you want to feel and how you want to desire, what you want to desire. What does that mean? As a Pisces, do you ever get affected by the weather, like the gloom? Does that ever affect you? For me, it always, being born and raised in California, you're not from California, right?
Of course I am.
You are, born and raised. Okay. So being born and raised in California.
Like, for sure.
Being born and raised in California, being used to the sun, that was
We're spoiled.
Yeah, that was my norm. And then when I went to New York for 8 years.
I had 1 year in London. That was my...
Yeah. You had a little gloom.
Yes, there was a lot of gloom the first few months there.
And I remember when there was no sun, I would just get sad. I would be like, it's like a bad starting point. And then I realized that what my teacher said, which is I wake up. And every day you wake up, you have to start over. So every day you have different desires.
Not that you have to, you get to.
Well, okay, fine, you get to.
Put that out there for a second.
But you need to know that there's a reboot. And everything you had before kind of goes out the window. And even after 20 years of studying between you and I'll wake up in the morning and whatever consciousness I had the day before is pretty much gone. So I actually have to spend 10, 20, 30, sometimes an hour deciding, all right, how do I want to feel today? What kind of desire do I want to have today? Oh, I don't have any desire. Okay, so how do I build that desire? So you actually have to reestablish, build the Legos, put the Legos back together every morning of who you want to be. And a lot of times people are saying, well, I feel this way, I feel that way. And yeah, that's always going to be the reset default, that the opponent will come in and give you a desire that you don't want or take away the desire. Whatever it is, he's going to do something that forces you to have to reestablish yourself every day. So what I do is it's meditation. I have no choice, because if I don't do it, the other desires will take control. And then it's a chain reaction. When you have negative desires, you do negative action, you say negative things, and that creates more chaos, and the chaos continues. So every morning, it's about establishing. I have a list. I actually have a list of 20 points of consciousness. And I look at that list every day and I say, okay, I need to desire this, and I need to think this way, I need to think this way, and I'll pray for it, and I'll ask for it. And then that's the way to do it. Have you ever gotten an adjustment at a chiropractor? It's kind of like you're aligned.
All the time.
All the time. You feel
Last week I had a great one.
You walk out, you feel you're taller, you feel the energy vibrating through your body. And then you sit on a chair for 2 hours, you bend over, you pick this up, you're holding the baby, you're doing all of a sudden everything
I feel
goes
so
out.
exposed, David. You're reading me like a book today.
Everything goes out of alignment. And then you gotta get up realigned again. So that's just how it is with spirituality. If you feel bad, you feel negative, you feel the negative thoughts are overwhelming you, just means you gotta readjust to yourself and decide what you want to desire and ask the Creator for help. How you want to think, and ask the Creator for help. How you want to act, and ask the Creator for help and give you strength to do that.
For those of you that are joining us for the first time, I know for some of you maybe just be catching us in the middle. I want to encourage everyone not only to go back and listen to the beginning of the show, but feel free to go back into the library we have on YouTube as well and catch up on shows you may be interested in. This is our first time doing YouTube Live, so we're getting the hang of it, and we'll be able to go back and answer your questions and comments throughout the week. But this is something you can subscribe to the page so that you can get notifications every week when we go live. And, we want to keep the conversation going with you throughout the week. We have a few, I think the next few weeks, next couple months, we have guests, I think every other week. So we have a lot of exciting content that we're preparing for you.
You told people, I didn't hear, did you tell people that we'll be on YouTube from now on? We're streaming on my Facebook page, but we'll be on the Kabbalah Center YouTube page live. And
this is going to be our home for the foreseeable future. So get comfortable with us, get used to it. I think that the picture is certainly brighter and sharper, but we want to hear from you guys. I don't know. We're embracing change as the rest of the world.
We actually have more live viewers, I think, on YouTube than we did even on Facebook and combined. But it's just a new platform.
Well, what's really cool about it is, by the way, I know many times we say, well, how can we get the translation? We have listeners all over the world. I shared last week. On YouTube, you can actually click the automatic subtitles. So feel free to send to your friends and family whom English may not be their first language. We have an opportunity to reach a much wider audience doing the YouTube Live this way. So share, like, comment. We're also on every podcast platform. So if you prefer that we come to your device, we can do that as well. Just subscribe on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts.
And I don't want to forget, I don't remember the exact date, and we'll have it next week, but I think in a couple weeks I'll be giving a new Global Kabbalah 1.
Oh, is it you're the one who's giving it? October 20, end of October.
I believe I'm giving it, and it's actually going to be earlier in the day. It's going to be 4 p.m. Pacific time, so that different people from all around the world can do it. I think the last one we had about 1,200 people join, and it's pay what you can model. So even if you can't afford,
we'll give you guys more information about that in the coming weeks. And, we'd love to hear from you. What are the topics that you're interested in? I'm trying to think. I believe this month we're going to be talking about fear, if I'm not mistaken. Next week we enter the month of Scorpio, and we're going to spend some time understanding fears, phobias, anxieties, and the Kabbalistic wisdom and tools to overcome them. So let's say, I don't want to scare you, but you should be afraid to miss those episodes. On that note, any closing words, David?
No, that's it. I'm really, really excited about this topic for everybody. And people ask me, what's one thing on my list? I'll tell you one thing every day. I got this from Michael Berg. I ask the Creator to give me certainty that everything is for the good, so I never doubt it, and I never think that something that's happening is bad. So that's just one of the 20 things on my list that I'll pray for and ask for.
I love it. And I love you guys. So have a fabulous week, and we'll see you next time on the Weekly Energy Boost.